Why do cats always land on their feet? Is it luck or skill? And then, how do animals shake themselves dry? And is it the same for all of them? Plus, a dog's incredible tongue. You've probably noticed how your pets drink, but you won't see this every day. And what about catching objects in midair? Where do dogs get their special ability from? With the help of high-speed cameras, we can stretch time and watch rapid processes in slow motion. From explosions to gunshots, they appear in a new light. In our laboratory, we've already used this high-speed technique many times. But for the first time, we will use it to prove just how extraordinary your pets are. Plus, to keep boredom at bay, we have some little-known facts about the animal kingdom. Welcome to our laboratory. Today, we plan on conducting some experiments with animals. Wait a second. No violence. Only qualified, trained animals and a team of professionals who work with them. Let's start with a nice and harmless test. If a human were to drink water by lapping it up, how would it work? Well, normally, we just wouldn't. We sip or pour it in. But if we do an impression of an animal, it might look a little something like this. I can definitely say, very inefficient and definitely inconvenient. I can't even call it lapping. Looks more like just licking the water and trying to scoop it with your bottom lip. Although drinking this way does look a little bit like lapping.
We totally have a different way of drinking. We use our tongues to lick and determine taste. That's why any tongue movement is associated with those functions. We often see cats and dogs licking something, and that's why we think that they drink in the same way, but that's not the case.
When we look at animals, we get a false impression that we can drink water just like them. But high-speed filming shows that, in fact, it would be impossible to copy them.
Go ahead, drink. Drink.
The dog's incredibly long tongue bends backwards and scoops water like a spoon. Who would have thought that?
All animals drink differently. This is determined by the differences in anatomy of their mouths. They eat differently, too. And even though both cats and dogs are predators, they also drink differently.
What about cats? Do their tongues perform the same acrobatics as a dog's?
No, only cats curl their tongues because the hairs on their tongues point backwards to the pharynx. They can hold drops of water.
So how does it work exactly? A dog drinks water, turning its tongue in the opposite direction. And cats, they have these pointed pimples called filiform mounts. So water, milk, and any kind of liquid gets caught on them. It turns out that everything is complex, but also quite simple. The way cats and dogs drink is absolutely the same. They don't scoop up water, but create a splash and grab it with their tongue. If we compare the volume of fluid on the tongue and the volume made by the splash, Even with the naked eye, we can see that the latter is greater. As a matter of fact, all animals that have lips that don't move drink this way. For example, horses and cows quench their thirst like people by drawing up water and creating negative pressure in the oral cavity. This method, in fact, is more effective. But cats and dogs can't do it. If they lowered their whole mouth into the water, they would just choke. We started with drinking water, so let's carry on. Only now there's going to be much more of it. How do dogs shake themselves dry? And do all animals do it the same way? We'll try to answer this bewildering question by using our high-speed cameras. And it appears that everyone will get wet, not only the animals. Everybody and everything will be wet, even the props and the studio walls. This will be the last time they let us come back here. But what can we do? Sacrifice for science. There's water everywhere. This is one of those rare occasions when the high-speed cameras fail to tell us anything new. But the devil, as usual, is in the detail. Once an expert takes a look at these shots, he'll drown us with information. A dog twists its skin along this radius. Then, when it changes direction, the water flies off. The dog can then stop this movement, and we can still see perfectly the drops on it moving. Well, in terms of frequency, probably it's somewhere around about 4 hertz, a magic number for dry dogs. This is how many movements per second a large dog can make it to get itself dry. After that initial wave was created near the neck, the muscles closer to its tail begin to work in the opposite direction. The dog seems to twist itself like wringing a towel dry, but this is primarily so the animal can keep balance and not move. By the way, this brings up the question, do all dogs, both long-haired and short-haired, shake themselves the same way? In fact, yes. But it's much harder for long-haired dogs to shake themselves dry. They retain more water, and it needs to keep a sort of reserve for the movement around its radius to get the water off the longer fur. Obviously, the droplets have further to slide off, so it's easier, of course, for the short-haired dogs. You can clearly see how a dog sets this in motion with its neck, and after the neck, the ears begin to twist. But that's expected, as it can't exactly dry them separately, and then the rest of the body. But the neck is a very muscular part of the dog's body. It's where this rotation begins. The movement has finished, but the tail's still going. Yes, the tail is still moving. Cats also use this method for shaking themselves dry. For the record, contrary to popular belief, they also swim like dogs. This sounds funny, but cats swim using the doggy paddle. Though one thing's for sure, cats don't like shaking or swimming, or water in general. They can very meaningfully demonstrate this with their whole body. Why do cats always land on all 4 paws, and bread always on the buttered side down? And what would happen if we tie buttered bread to the back of a cat. Just kidding. No, really. How do all these felines manage to spin in midair and land safely? Let's find out. Tom, it's your turn. But before the unsuspecting Tom shows us what he does best, we will give him some protection. Science is science, but we'd prefer him not to come to any harm. To be safe, let's use this pillow. Inside are foam granules. All of this should soften the landing. Okay, we have a little left to do to turn Tom over and see if he turns back 180 degrees in the air. Now then, Tom's leap of faith. The altitude is about 2 meters or so. We will set him off in this reversed position. Be patient for the sake of science. That's it. On 3. 1, 2, 3. As expected, on all fours. In slow motion, we can see it all in detail. A perfect landing on all 4 paws. But it's still completely unclear how he does it. Perhaps it's thanks to the tail. If you focus on it, the tail turns in the opposite direction to the rotation of his body.
Cats with long tails, like leopards and snow leopards, can flip themselves over and change their direction twice in the air with the help of their tails, of course. I've seen it firsthand. It's incredibly impressive.
Let's then carry out an experiment with a cat without a tail. So, where's our shears? Get ready with narcosis? Heads up? No, we wouldn't. Get acquainted. This is Emma, a Karelian bobtail. This breed has a short tail. Okay, will she be able to land on all 4 paws? Yes, she will. So the tail has nothing to do with it. And by the way, the cat's turn during the fall is a violation of 2 of Newton's laws simultaneously. The first and the third. Let's start with the third law. An action equal to reaction. A cat can't just start spinning in the air. Because if its upper body makes a move in one direction, the lower part will make the same turn to the other, according to Newton's third law. But then the first law, the energy conservation law, is also broken. Before landing, the cat somehow slows the spinning motion and just drops during the last part of its fall, having clearly aligned its paws downwards. So how is this possible? Maybe scientists can explain it.
I can't explain how cats flip in the air, but almost all animals who live under a forest canopy and whose life entails jumping and requiring steering in the air possess this ability. For instance, the flying squirrel, lemurs, and the civets who use branches a lot use them as springs. Primates also.
Well, let's figure it out for ourselves. First, how does a cat understand which way it should turn? In charge of this is some well-developed apparatus. Indeed, all felines jump very well. Nature has given them an inner ear receptor, which always tells them their position relative to the ground. Secondly, if you look at how a tailless cat and an ordinary one turn over, it is clear that the first makes its every movement more vigorously and barely manages to turn over before landing. It means one movement in particular is important, but which one? Tom, tell us, how do you do it, huh? We won't tell anyone. Give me a hand. Come on. what any cat does when falling is known in science as rotation relative to the center of mass. Or more precisely, a change in the moment of inertia of one part of the body relative to another. With the paws drawn in, the moment of inertia decreases, the angle of velocity increases, and the upper part of the body turns faster than the lower one. And vice versa. When Tom retracted his hind feet and straightened the front feet, the back of his body turned faster. The whole secret is in the position of the feet. By pulling and drawing them, cats change the moment of inertia of the upper and lower parts of the body. And before landing, they simply slow this rotation by straightening all their feet. Like this. It's simple, and no laws are broken. So what's next? A dog's ability to catch things on the move, and a cat's complete indifference to this form of entertainment. We will also give some more unusual animal facts. Well done. We already know how cats turn when falling, how dogs shake themselves dry, and how they drink. What other secrets will these high-speed cameras reveal about our pets? There is a trick. You toss something small, a cracker or a berry, and catch it. Well, in this case, I didn't. And if we take the expression to grab a bite on the run literally, then we would be entertained watching humans try to catch with their mouth. Unlike animals, this is a piece of cake. Casey? That's my girl. There you go. A flying saucer or frisbee. Dog food and toys. They can catch anything without any problem. But when we slow this all down, the technique used by the animals becomes very clear. The dog follows the flying object from the very first moment it's released. Its eyes are open the entire time. It has no fear of what is coming towards it. And then, bam! The mouth slams shut like a trap. Unlike a cat or a human, a dog's mouth is its main tool for grasping things. Therefore, their eyes are constantly alert. An object that could be caught is constantly in its field of vision. The dog follows it attentively, and if it misses something, normally the dog is sick or getting old. With its mouth, a dog will hardly ever miss. So let's compare this to a human. Our engineer has volunteered for this one. We will call this catching biscuits on the fly. So, for a human being, it all looks, to put it mildly, a little different. Oh, that's right. We don't use our mouth to hold things. We have hands and thumbs. And of course, no reflex to keep track of an object flying into our mouths. A person can catch something with the mouth by accident or by deliberately training it. Here, the person shuts his eyes simply because he wants to protect them. By the way, a cat will always use its paws to catch things. If you throw something at a cat, it will either try to use its claws or show total indifference to the object. Lots of stuff goes past me. So what? Should I lift my paw every time? If it were a stray cat, then its reaction would have been completely different. A cat is not going to catch something it's not interested in. And again, the dog's ability to catch things in the air while on the move comes from the fact that it will always use its mouth to catch things. A dog watches the flying object at all times, and when it gets close to its jaws, its eyes will stop following it. As soon as an object touches the lips, the dog slams its mouth shut automatically. Sometimes, if the object is very large, it helps itself with its feet, but it's the mouth which is the active grabbing organ for all dogs.